Hey guys, welcome back to Rot, Rust, and Runs. Still working on the F100. Working on the interior now. Did a bunch of work on the dashboard. I'm going to show you guys here. So I took the dash pad off, which was horrible. I'll show you that in a minute. But I touched up all the scratches, and that glove box was terrible. It was all, paint was all worn off of it. Repainted the bezel around the dashboard there, cleaned the glass behind it, cleaned the gauges behind that, took out every knob. Quick tip, the light knob, when you take this dash out, there's a button on the switch. You push it and pull the knob right out, and then you can unscrew the escutcheon plate. Same thing with these. Pull the knobs off. There's a little set screw in there, an Allen wrench takes it out. And then there's a couple of twist in, threaded washers back there that hold on these plates. But I repainted everything, put a new steering wheel on it. That was quite an adventure. But it's starting to look pretty good. And I almost was going to leave the dash like that. I've seen other people do it. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut away the front section of the dash from the rest of it, and I'm just going to repair that part and try putting that back on, sort of like a Chevy truck. I know that's blasphemy, but I kind of like the way the old school metal just looks. And if you take a look there, even the grills for the defrosters were drilled for screws, yet they were embedded in the foam of the dash pad. So here's the dash pad. It's destroyed. I've already cut away the section that kind of wraps around the front. I'll show you what I do with that. Been working on some other stuff too. The pink wire from the coil to the ignition switch was bad, and it was making the truck start intermittently. That is it's a special kind of wire. Basically, it cuts down the voltage to the ignition coil somewhere below 12 volts. When I got a reading on it, it was like 7 volts or something, but I put a new coil in it, and that coil wants 12 volts. So I ran a 14 gauge wire, clipped those 2 wires off, one right by the ignition switch, and then one out here just under the hood on the firewall where the plug comes through that grabs like the oil temperature, the oil sensor and the water sensor. This truck does not have, it has idiot lights, so it does not have gauges. Clipped off the pink wire, put a butt connector on it, works flawlessly. The truck starts instantaneously now. You turn the key and bang, it's off. So if you're having a problem, it's likely it. And it's a resistor wire, that's what it's called. And again, I'm not a mechanic, but did some Googling. It's a resistor wire, and I don't know how much resistance is on it, but quite frankly, I don't see a reason for it. I don't know why Ford did it. No other car company does it. Dodge, I guess, has that ballast resistor, but I took it off, and it runs fine. In fact, better than ever. So here's what I'm doing. This section of the dash was pretty bad as well. You can see the cracks in it. And what I did was I kind of cut it at the seam where it blends into the piece that goes out over the rest of the dash, which I'm just going to leave open the way it is. And I think what I'm going to try to do, well, first of all, I'm gluing it together because it was split completely apart right here. So I used some 3M adhesive to try to glue the foam back together, and I think that'll work. And as you can see, it's a little thick in here, so the transition down onto the flat of the dash is going to be weird. But my plan is, I've seen some other folks use that construction foam, like for window sealant. And they build it up, and then they kind of use sheetrock tape, the fiberglass stuff that's sticky. and they use that as reinforcement. So my plan is to get this glued together. That's why it's stuck down on the bench like that. And once those two pieces are connected together, I'm going to come in here and I'm going to sheetrock tape this front, and I'm going to sheetrock tape the side you can't see. I'll show you that later in another video. But truck's coming along. Did get a new seat for it. This is a seat out of like a 92 brick nose or whatever those are called, OBS Ford trucks. The seat rails did not work, but the bars that are underneath the seat line up exactly with the old seat rails. So basically all I had to do is, now in those years, Ford used a bolt through the seat track up into the seat. It was the reverse in these early years. So I drilled out the metric nut that was embedded like a rib nut in the 1990 or so seat, so that I could put the nut and bolt back in just like Ford had back in 71. But the seat is in way better condition than my seat. I'm not going to keep it blue, obviously, but at least it's got padding. I couldn't even put a seat cover on the other seat because it was completely destroyed. The back was pulling away from the frame, and the seat on the driver's side was marginal at best. I'll take it out here and take a look at it. Just got it outside the garage. There's the seat, right? So this is where you sit. The springs are shot. You basically sunk down to the ground. Here's the back of it, pulling away from the frame. There's just no way you could put a seat cover on it, even one of the cheap Indian blanket seat covers. Oh, I probably shouldn't have said that. Native American seat blanket covers. At any rate, I got one here. That's not going to be the ultimate seat cover. I think I'm going to go with that sort of Ferrari caramel colored vinyl or leather eventually, with probably plaid inserts. I know that's not a Ford thing, but I kind of like the plaid. And today I spent most of the day actually working on 911. Gave it a bath for the first time in a while. It's dusty now because this cover was dirty. But what I've really been working on with it is the interior. You can kind of see in there, I put the lobster interior back in. It's a pretty rare color. Took all of the carpets out. And pretty cool tip is, if you ever do this with a car and you want to save the carpets because they're in good shape, but they're kind of matted, and you know, it was 1978 when this car was built, and they used a bit of a shag type carpet. Here it is. It's pretty thick pile. This is the driver's side floorboards, which is not going to go back in because it's covered in brake fluid. I got a leak in my master cylinder. But you can see how disgusting sort of the carpet looked. The rest of it wasn't quite that bad. Those pieces are kind of at the bottom of your feet, so you know they don't hold up so well. Amazon's here every day, just pulling in. I think it has some carpet for me, but there's what it looks like after you clean it with Woolite. So I used spray 9 to get the greasy spots off, if there were any. There weren't a lot, but there were some dark spots I didn't want to show up on that orange carpet. I used spray 9, and then I used Woolite. Picked that up as a tip from a friend of mine who's in a Porsche club and has a similar car, and that's what he did. Here's what it looks like when they're done. And the carpet is now soft, and the pile looks great. Another tip I figured out is, if you get a stainless steel wire brush, a clean one. This is a Harbor Freight one. Interestingly enough, this is an orange brush, and it says orange on it. I have no idea why, but you can see it there. And I kind of just comb the carpet fibers to bring them back up, because after you wash it, it's a little matted down. But this carpet probably looks the same way it did when it was brand new in 1978. And it's soft, and it smells good, and it's not disgusting anymore. So I removed the entire carpet of the inside of the car. My plan is to put it back in. I put my regular seats back in. I did have some race seats in it because I did track the car for a few years, well, quite a few years. but no more track time for it. Last time I took it to the track, I had a little incident. So you can see it's